Okay. So, okay. Good morning, everybody. I have to apologize because let's see if you can tell where I am. I'm at let's see if we can get over here and you can see where I am. I'm at the U.S. Embassy, in Jerusalem. It's almost impossible to get a passport, renewal. In Jerusalem, it's almost impossible in America also. It's actually harder in America than here, but it's really hard here. And they opened up walk-in appointments at 8 a.m. So we wanted to get in as early as possible. So we've been here since like 6:30. We're number one online, and we hope that helps. Let's get quickly to a briefing. I'm not sure how, if I can see a chat, for questions. So I'm not sure how we're going to do that this morning, but we'll see how it works. Let's just talk about developments. So first of all, President Biden's trip was an incredible success for the U.S.-Israel relationship. President Biden, first, as he mentioned, first wartime president to visit Israel, a real pick me up. And obviously, the greatest thing about his trip was that he unequivocally, with no doubts, no, no saying, maybe this way, maybe that way, no two sides of the story. It was not Israel who bombed the hospital. So right off the bat, a couple of things are come out of that. And the first thing is, which is really good, um, is that now Hamas is going to be suspected of lying. Hamas always lied, and the press always knew that Hamas lied. But as we saw when the hospital bombing happened, they just went with the Hamas story and said that the Hamas story is obviously the correct one. And that so right away now that Hamas was proven liars, and that the press was embarrassed because they accepted the lies, and that it became so obviously apparent that that Hamas was lying, but the press got it wrong. In the future, they won't be as susceptible to Hamas lies and won't accept them right away. So that's a tremendous plus, and we really have President Biden to thank that, because with all their irrefutable proof that we could have brought, videos and tapped into communications between members of Hamas admitting that it was them, the world still wouldn't have been convinced, because it would have been the IDF says this, Hamas says that. When the president of the United States gets up and says the evidence is irrefutable, that it is clear, and then the United States comes up afterwards and officially says that it was not Israel that did this. So then it's tremendous in terms of the PR war. Which now you'll say, like, what does the PR war matter? It's the physical war that matters, and there's truth to that. But Israel is going to only have a certain amount of time to act against Hamas, and against the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip and terrorist organizations, and that will greatly depend on the PR war. As much as Hamas loses the PR war, they're going to have less time to go ahead and defend themselves, and and be just Israel will get more time for this. So that's a very important thing. Um, so that in that sense, that's very good. Another important part of it is, if you notice, President Biden used a very strange term when he said that it wasn't Israel. He didn't say it was Hamas, because it wasn't Hamas. It was Palestinian Islamic Jihad, and this puts the world at a real crux of a problem, because the world has been saying that the war isn't against the Palestinian people, it's against Hamas. That's Israel's talking point. That's the United States' talking point. President Biden stressed that just because Hamas did this, they're not representative of the Palestinian people. Now, in my opinion, as I've made clear many times, is that that's an incorrect approach. So what do you do when a rocket is fired, and kills scores of people in Gaza, but wasn't fired by Hamas and wasn't fired by Israel? And what do you call that now? You can't say that that's a war against Hamas. You can't say Hamas did it, because Hamas didn't do it. So what President Biden had to say was it was the other team. Okay, so now we seem to have Team Hamas, and then they have these extra players on their team who are not on their roster. I'm not sure how far you can take this analogy, but at a certain point, enough of these incidences are going to happen that the world is going to have to come to the realization that this is not solely a Hamas problem. And the problem will not be solved just by getting rid of Hamas. That the problem is endemic to the Palestinian society, and that the Palestinian society has a problem. Now, again, the Biden administration isn't there yet. They're not willing to say, they came out with, two-state solution stuff, and they came out with the idea that it's not a war against the Palestinian people, but like the consequences of this hospital bombing. One of them is the fact that you can't just say that Hamas is involved; that they have to admit that other people are involved. So that's the first thing. That's the second or third thing that came out of this. President Biden said that he's going to ask Congress. Congress is the one that controls this. The president can't do it on his own, but ask Congress for an unprecedented amount of wartime aid. Now, I don't know if it's going to be unprecedented because, like, Ukraine got $50 billion. We don't need $50 billion. So I'm not sure that there's going to be more than that. So that's the just 1 second. Passport's here. So that's the. Just want to make sure that I get first in line. So tell everybody else to stand behind me. I'll be first in line. So that's the second thing that comes out of it. Okay, then here, yeah. Then you have the renewal. Then you have the aid package that President Biden has promised, which is incredible. That's great. So that's going to give us enough Iron Dome missiles to be able to protect ourselves against Palestinian rockets. It's going to be a great amount of things. So that is guys, go win online. Okay, make sure that they don't take our spot. Okay, so that's really really positive development that President Biden isn't just coming to show support, but it's going to be a concrete showing of that support, an unprecedented aim. And again, I think that with the aid, of course, very important. I'm not downplaying it, but I think also almost just as important is going to be Congress has to vote on that aid package. And normally an aid package like this, Congress would just do what's called a voice vote or an anonymous consent, which would be just be, they would just allow without an actual vote, they would just allow it to go through. But members of Congress are going to want to speak about this. So they're going to have speeches, and these speeches are going to be incredibly pro-Israel. And then what you're going to have is the squad, which are these 8 to 10 members of Congress that are anti-Semitic and anti-Zionist and anti-Israel. They're going to get up and they're going to give their speeches. And it's going to be the first time you're going to see the dichotomy in real life, where there aren't two sides of the story, yet the squad is taking the other side. So that is that's going to be I'm very much looking forward to that. Now, the reason why that hasn't happened yet is because the Republicans have yet to elect a speaker. At least by the time I woke up this morning and looked at the news, I didn't see that they had elected a speaker, and they can't have votes until there's a speaker of the House. So so that's internal American politics, and we're not going to get into that. But that is the cause of the delay. Okay, then so that's a second thing that came out. Now, a slightly disturbing part of the trip is that President Biden announced $100 million in humanitarian aid for Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank. Now, I don't know why people in the West Bank need humanitarian aid. That I'm in the West Bank. The stores are full, so nothing's happening. So I don't know why anybody in my neighborhood needs $100 million. I personally want to see if I can apply for some of that. Why not get some of my tax money back? But the Gaza humanitarian aid, so they need, people in Gaza need help, like they need food, but the other side of the story is, well, hold on a second, like when Hamas and the Palestinians attacked us, we didn't have any humanitarian aid. There was no way for us to, they showed no mercy to us. So why are we now showing mercy to them? Which goes back to the argument of, well, our war is not with the Palestinian people, it's with Hamas. But that, again, I don't believe that. That's not true. So a lot of the families of hostages said, why should we allow aid to go through when they're holding our hostages? Right? You get aid when you free hostages. You don't get aid before that. The Biden administration is taking a different approach. There's tons of aid waiting at the Egyptian border. Egypt won't let it go through. There's no government in Gaza to talk of. You can't call up Hamas and say, hey, we've got this humanitarian aid. You have a bunch of gunmen sitting at the border. Can you let them have the aid go in? Because and then there's the question of how do we ensure that the aid doesn't go to Hamas? Right? They've notoriously taken water pipes and all concrete materials. So all this stuff is going to go to aid the war effort against Israel. So as the United States, in its efforts to provide humanitarian aid to people, are they now going to be, aiding the enemy? It's like it's absurd. Another point that's important to make is why is it that no Arab country will accept refugees from Gaza? Right? There are people in a war zone. These are people that need to leave. They want to get out, and nobody will accept them. Yeah, so why not? And why then is it Israel's problem? Why has this become Israel's problem? The Arabs won't help. So it's Israel's responsibility to help the Palestinians. No, it's not. So that's something. Okay, when it comes to Hezbollah, there have been 4 Israeli soldiers that have died in battles with Hezbollah over the last couple of days. There's been a lot of civilians that have been injured. Again, it's this tit for tat thing that we're going back and forth, and that we haven't really opened the front with Hezbollah, and I'm not sure we want to. But that's what's been going on when it comes to Hezbollah. Okay, let me go see if I can do questions on the phone. I can. Okay, I can see. I hope you guys can still see me. Okay, why won't Egypt let aid go through Gaza? Egypt won't let aid go through Gaza because they don't want that door opening. They do not want. They do not want the door opening to Gaza and letting people. Now, again, yes, you'll say to put Egyptian soldiers there, but they don't want. They don't want to go through. They don't want to be responsible for inspecting this material and making sure there's no war. There could be guns and missiles on that stuff, and they don't want that responsibility. Egypt doesn't want to have anything to do with Gaza with Hamas. They want to stay out of this. Why have the problem in their mind? Okay, what's the deal? Oh, by the way, we'll take questions now. What's the deal with Hezbollah? Why doesn't Israel just say enough and focus on a bigger attack to get rid of the threat of Hezbollah if we do a ground invasion? Well, very simple. Hezbollah has 150,000 rockets pointed at us, at least. It could be even more. So, and those rockets will kill many, many Israelis. They're not like Hamas rockets. They're much more sophisticated. Some might even be what are called precision guided, which we've explained in the previous briefing, which means that they can be their direction can change by being controlled by a remote control on the ground. They're much more sophisticated, and they can cause a lot more harm to Israelis. So that's why we don't want a war with Hezbollah. On the other hand, we didn't want a war with Hamas, and then eventually it blew up in our faces and killed 1,400 of our people. So maybe it is best to finally rip off the Band-Aid and destroy Hamas. I mean, destroy Hezbollah. Okay, why won't Egypt let them in if most of their population is Palestinian? And right, why was the aid sent to Egypt in the first place? Egypt won't let them in because the Palestinians are known as the troublemakers of the Arab people, and nobody likes them. The Arabs don't like them. Nobody likes them. The Palestinians in Lebanon are only allowed to have like 5 jobs. They're only allowed to live in certain neighborhoods. Palestinians in Kuwait are second class citizens. They're not allowed in Saudi Arabia to live. The Emiratis won't accept them. Nobody wants them. They prove to be troublemakers. In Jordan, 75% of the population is Palestinian. But in the 1970s, they rebelled, and the king had rolled tanks over 20,000 of them and killed them. So nobody wants them. Okay. Do you think the Democrat government has fault on the war happening? I don't understand the question. I don't understand what that means. Okay, were there any casualties at all in the explosion at the hospital? Looking at the footage of the area that they released this morning, seems like there was not much damage done and no bodies visible. Yeah, it's amazing. They announced right away 500 people die, right? And they can and it's like impossible to know how many people die. The hospital holds only 80 people. The hospital, by the way, is fully standing with no damage. It has like a couple broken windows. I don't know if you ever seen like Mexican style tiles, like Spanish style tiles that are on. There was like one in the parking lot. The rocket hit the parking lot, not the hospital. There are cars that were unscathed. And like a couple of tiles were knocked off a roof, but the rest of the tiles were on. It's like this tiny little rocket. And again, no bodies, right? So as time goes on, you'll see that there's going to be investigative journalists that are going to do stories on this and the making of a Hamas lie, what we've been calling Pallywood for a long time, like the combination of Palestine and Hollywood. So it's like it's a joke. It's an absolute joke. This hospital hit. It wasn't Israel. Many people weren't killed, right? All this stuff. It's just the whole thing was an absolute joke, and it's going to come out. It's going to come out that it was a lie made to vilify Israel. If Hamas lied about the death toll in this instance, why should we believe any other of the Palestinian death? We don't believe the Palestinian counts, right? We don't believe Palestinian counts. They're always exaggerated. They always lie. The press picks up on them and runs with them because they want them to be true because it makes Israel look bad, and that increases the drama of the conflict. And so yes, 100%. That's what I'm saying. That's what I was talking about in the beginning of the briefing. That's going to be great because people are not going to believe these numbers anymore. They're not going. They're going to have to take with suspicion what the Hamas health ministry is releasing in terms of death tolls and in terms of injuries. They're going to have to say, well, now we have to check that out because last time we ran with it, and that was really bad. So 100%, yes, we're not going to trust it. How are the people in Mitzvah holding up? So thank you very much for asking. Well, half our men are gone. They're serving in Miluim. The rest are one of three types of people: either too young, too old, or Americans like me who were never drafted. So that's problem number one. Problem number two is we're waiting for any second an invasion that might happen, that like down south, that the people in Yericho are going to get upset and realize that, hey, they should try this. So that's it, and then and we're just trying to get through life. It's not easy. It's not easy in Israel today, because you're just completely encompassed by the war. I'm not sure if Jews in America are completely encompassed by the war. It's something that you just like. I assume it's depends on the person. But in Israel, like our whole lives are just the war. Like there's nothing else happening. So yeah, and that like completely takes over your life. Okay, our schools and universities open. Schools have just opened up. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think universities have opened, but schools have. The schools have. Universities take a little more while to like open up. Schools can open up day to day. Like they don't need like a couple of weeks transition time to open up. They can just say, okay, everybody come back tomorrow, and the school's all set up and ready to go. Also, keep in mind this war happened on the last day of vacation. So so it wasn't like school stopped and then has to restart. It was used to. Okay, universities aren't opening before November 5th, my daughter says. So okay, so great. So universities take a little more while to get going. Also, universities hadn't started their year yet. Universities in Israel start their semesters after Sukkot. We start like schools had already obviously been starting since the beginning of September. Again, we're on vacation and now came back from vacation. But my kids are all back in school. One of my kids likes that. One of my kids does not like that. And so yeah, so that depends on your attitude towards school. I assume that my kid that doesn't like school is more normal, takes a more normal approach than for the normal towards Israeli students than my son who loves school. Okay, that seems to be the end of the questions. What can we do to help? Okay, great. So 3 things you could do to help. Number one, daven, pray really hard. That's number one. Really, I mean, pray for the hostages to come back, for there to be victory in war, and for our soldiers to be protected, and for nobody else in Israel to die, and for the people that are injured to get better. That's number one. Number two, lobby your member of Congress. If you're not calling your member of Congress every single day and asking the person that answers the phone, can you please update me on what the member of Congress has done for Israel today? You're not doing your job. You're not doing your responsibility. You need to be calling your member of Congress. It's so easy. Just Google who's my member of Congress. Ask you for your zip code. Put in your zip code. It tells you a member of Congress is. Then you just go to their website and look for their Florida or wherever you are stationed in America, their number. And if, by the way, if you're listening to this from Israel and you're an American citizen, your member of Congress is the last place that you lived in America. So if you lived in Cincinnati, Ohio, just write in Cincinnati, Ohio. Okay. So right, universities also. My daughter writes is sorry. And last thing to do to help is to give tzedakah. Doesn't matter how much, doesn't matter to who, just give tzedakah. Tzedakah is incredibly important. Okay, I saw my daughter wrote that people in the reserves, a lot of students are in the reserves now, so they can't really open because they won't have a student body. Okay, I saw a report that there may be more terrorists in Israel and are being hidden by people who are working together with them. Is that true? I saw that also. I don't know if there's a way to know, like, if somebody's hiding. How do you know if somebody's hiding? There'll be intelligence reports, and a lot of the Hamas fighters, there's 1,500 of them. They died with their phones on them and with their reports on them, so you can trace a lot of their calls to other people, and you can monitor the phone calls. And I'm sure some of these guys that are hiding, they're not the smartest of the people, so they'll start, asking around if. Are you still alive? Are you still alive? And then we'll be able to trace them. So I think that's probably what they're doing now. Why suddenly now is there such a need for tzitzis for soldiers? I don't know. I do not understand this tzitzis thing. It's every war. It's like we got to make tzitzis for soldiers. These guys don't have tzitzis. I never understood this. I don't understand. Get bulletproof vests. That's what they need. Anybody that wants to wear tzitzis has tzitzis, and it's not like the country has a shortage of tzitzis. Like we can just go to stores and buy tzitzis. It's like everyone's tying tzitzis. It's the craziest thing. I do not understand it. 300,000 soldiers. Let's disqualify 50,000 of them or 40,000 of them for being women. They don't need tzitzis. Let's disqualify another 125,000 of them because they already have tzitzis, because they own tzitzis. And then there's like this thing that they have to wear green tzitzis because their uniforms are green, and they'll be seen if they're wearing white tzitzis. So the number one, it's under their uniform. I don't understand that. Number two, the strings are white. It's the craziest thing in the world. Honestly. Okay, I don't know. What do 2 million Israeli Arabs feel about the conflict? Is there any unrest? There's tons of unrest. It's just not being reported in the press. There's like an Arab next to me. I can go ask him, like, what do you think about the war? But there's tons of unrest. There's rioting in Hebron. There was rioting in Jerusalem right outside our neighborhood yesterday. Yeah, and they're all being kept. The Palestinians are all being kept in their villages. They're not allowed out in Judea and Samaria. So go ahead. You figure how much that upsets them. Okay, stop here. Everybody, have a great day. Remember, tshuva, tefillah, and stucca, and call your member of Congress. Okay, have a great day, everybody. Man. Yeah.